welcome everyone. This is Generative AI with InterSystems Data Fabric Studio. I have not practiced this presentation as much as I should, so please help me. So this is our agenda. We'll quickly go over the benefits and challenges of generative AI and why we think IDFS is a good idea for that. We'll take a look at the high level of the InterSystems Data Fabric Studio architecture. And by the way, when I say IDFS, I mean InterSystems Data Fabric Studio, but I just don't want to say all these words 50 times in this presentation. We will also talk about the assistants and how we manage security and governance. And then what's next in IDFS. So why are we thinking about large language models and assistants? This is pretty obvious, right? We want more time to do our real job. We want more information to do our real job. It can help us to quickly explore alternative solutions to a problem, right? So we are not lazy anymore about just going with that solution because that's the first one that came to our mind. We can quickly explore other solutions, makes us more creative. It can help us automate a lot of our manual tasks. So it's very useful. We know all that. But the challenges, right? And this is where I want to stay a little bit longer. In order for it to work, it needs access to updated data, right? Your data. Like it's different from just talking to ChatGPT. If you're just talking to ChatGPT, you can have some of the benefits. But if you really want to change your organization and ask questions about your business, you need updated data from your systems, proprietary data that is current. So that's a challenge. There are also technological complexities, right? New technologies you need to buy, understand, integrate. Security and governance are also crucial. Like, if the assistant can see all your data and anyone can talk to the assistant, then you have a security breach, right? If I am a doctor and I'm asking about patient Philip, I have to ask the question, are you seeing patient Philip, Dr. Amir? Or are you just, trying to invade his privacy, right? So security and governance are very important. Personalization for your business is also very important. I mean, it starts with your data, right? We already discussed that real quick, but it goes beyond. Like, I may need different assistants for different types of professionals in my organization. I may need them to behave differently, to be able to do different things depending who is talking to them. So I can't simply use a generic assistant, right? And then implementation support. How can I keep that going? New language models are being released every day. Are they going to continue to work? Is my assistant going to start hallucinating? Is something going to break? Where should I deploy this? How should I do the backups, monitoring, all that stuff? So those are all the challenges that any organization that is trying to infuse their businesses with large language models and assistants will face. And what I want to do here is try to explain how InterSystems Data Fabric Studio can help you with each one of those challenges, starting with the access to your data. So InterSystems Data Fabric Studio is it's a fully managed solution. I want to take this out of the way right away. Right? For now, we can only deploy this as a managed service in AWS and Azure. We are considering other options, open for discussions, but that's what we're doing right now. It is built on top of IDIS. It leverages everything that IDIS has to offer, but it makes it faster and easier for you to catalog your data, bring the data in with full governance, security, data lineage, right? And then feed this into your use cases. What use cases? You can do analytics, you can train machine learning models, you can feed the data to an assistant, which is the topic of this session. But our goal is really to give a tool to non-developers. Okay, that's our goal. I'll say that again, non-developers. Developers can certainly use it, but we are trying to make it easy. That's all I'm trying to say, right? So we are doing a lot of effort, we're making a lot of effort here to give you a very intuitive user interface, to make sure you can shoot your feet, you give you all the governance, protections. So that's our goal. And taking a quick look, I mean, we have had a session about IDFS. I'll point that session to you in a minute. But this diagram helps to understand the breadth of functionality that InterSystems Data Fabric Studio has to offer. On the left side, you can see your data sources, relational data sources, PDF documents, enterprise applications such as SAP and Salesforce, text files, streaming. We can do it all. We keep adding more connectors as we speak. And with IDFS for Health, we're going to be adding connectors that are specifically to healthcare. On the right side, you can see the use cases. I may be offering an API to some data. I may be creating a report. I may be building an assistant. For all of that, I need data, curated data that I can trust. And in the middle, you can see all the functionality we have to offer to guarantee that. So we can catalog all the sources on the left. We allow you to create data workflows, to pull that data in, validate them, validate the data, transform it, reconcile it if necessary with other data sets, and finally update your target data models for your use cases. We can put that on a business scheduler to run every day, every hour, considering holidays and business hours, time zones, all that stuff. We have other features such as snapshotting that allows you to take a snapshot of your data and, if necessary, take a look at it as it was in the past. So it has many, many functionalities here. Again, we have a session just about InterSystems Data Fabric Studio that we did on Monday. There is a recording you can watch, and other sessions coming up. One today after this one about supply chain. Is that it correct? No, that one is gone. There is a recording. Okay, in summary, we have connectors. We make it easy. We bring all your data together. It's reliable. We we notify you about anything that is going wrong. We bring humans into the process. We have workflows. All that is done. You don't need to build that again. We provide you with all the tools for for having data lineage. If someone points out that something's wrong in a report or the assistant is saying something wrong, you can trace that back to the source. I can show you how we got the data, how it was transformed, and how it was promoted, right? So data lineage is very important. Data governance also. Who has access to the data? Who can see that data? And it's updated data. We keep that data current. We can keep bringing the deltas. We can keep bringing the data in. So this is how we help you with that part of the problem about accessing your data for your assistants, right? What about technological complexities? So let's take a quick look at the InterSystems Data Fabric Studio architecture. So from the outside in, the user is on the left, right, configuring a new data source. He or she may be cataloging something new, like I want to catalog this object from Salesforce. I want to catalog this CSV file that someone is sending me every day. I want to, and by catalog I mean I want to understand the schema, I want to give descriptions to that thing, describe each column individually, save that so that people can find it later and they can, if they need to implement a new use case, they can go shopping for the data sets that they need. So sources are on the bottom. We are fetching the data and storing it on our database. that is purple in the middle of the picture on the left. As we load the data, we can index it on our vector database. It's on the middle right part of the picture in blue. So we use a vector store for that, and InterSystems Iris has a vector database. And as we're doing this, indexing your data as embeddings, as vectors in this vector database, we're talking to the large language model vendor out in the cloud or in the cloud. So finally, the user can talk to the AI assistant, which is implemented by this blue box at the bottom center of the picture. I call it IDFS reasoning. And why reasoning? So that's because it's more than RAG. And who knows what RAG is here? Retrieval augmented generation. Yeah, half of the room knows what RAG is. So basically, in order to reduce hallucination, before you answer a question, using a large language model like the ones provided by OpenAI, you need to feed them data. Like, please only answer this question using this data. Don't come up with anything else. If the answer to the question is not in the data that I'm giving you, say that you don't know. So that reduces hallucinations to a minimum, right? And RAG helps with that. But we have gone beyond RAG. We have implemented a reasoning model. Sometimes when talking to ChatGPT, it will take longer, depending on the model that you pick, to answer a question, because they also have reasoning models. What we're doing is to provide you with your own reasoning model. A reasoning model can plan to answer a question. It can select the agents that will help with answering that question. And then it summarizes the answers of all agents to provide the answer. So that is IDFS reasoning. So the agents, they will search the data that you have on that vector database in blue there to finally to process and answer the question. So that is the architecture. And as you can see, there are many new concepts, and those are problems that we're trying to solve for you. So that's what makes InterSystems Data Fabric Studio really great. So it starts with your data, right? And here again, I'm mentioning relational data, PDF documents, streaming, text files. We can bring all this data into IDFS in a reliable way, and we can catalog it. So this screen here is the screen of our data catalog. You can see that this is a table. Every row here is a column, and it has a data type of that column. It has a description, which is very important, because with the description, the assistant can know what that is and can really use it to answer your questions and help you do things, right? So this is the first step. We have to be able to catalog everything from SAP, Salesforce, CSV files. That's the data catalog. And let's see how this can get used to answer your questions. So let me open up IDFS here, just a second. So basically, I want to do something very simple. This is the InterSystems Data Fabric Studio UI. I'm saying that too much. I should say IDFS. It's faster. And here's the data catalog, and I can browse for schemas, filter by category, filter by other filters. And I just want to show you one of the tables that I have here cataloged, and the one from the picture. And basically, as you can see here, I have columns, the data type, I have descriptions, right? And good descriptions will help the assistant, okay? That is very important. It has to be done by all the things that you are giving the assistant to work with. What else I want to do here? I want to show you the SQL assistant, and I want to ask the assistant a question. So this is the SQL assistant. As you know, as you can see here, I can write a SQL query, I can run it myself, but I also have the assistant here on the right, and I can ask the assistant to help me with my SQL. So I do have a question here that I want to. So I need to find information about trades done in a day for a customer with price and status. And here you start to see the reasoning. So the assistant is saying, yeah, I need to use the data catalog, the information there to generate the SQL queries. Let me do that. And then it's working on that. If your question, if my question were more complex, it would select multiple agents to work on it. This one is a simple one. And here I see the query, and it's totally annotated and very helpful. I can click here and run it right away, or I can say, drop the where clause. Give me some sample data, right? I just want to see some sample data to see if that's really what I want. And then it modifies that query and runs it on my behalf. And that I'm doing this because I want you to know something. When we do this, we run this SQL statement with the security SQL context of that user, right? If you need more. Okay, so that's what. So there you go, a live demo. It didn't work. No, that's fine. So what we have we should have seen here is a table with the data. It brings me a sample of the data. And as I was saying, it would do that using my user. So if I did not have access to that table, the assistant would say, no, I'm sorry, I can tell you all about that table, but you can't see the data. And that is also useful, because then you could go and ask permission. You could ask the owner of that data set to give you, to grant you the privileges to use it. Okay, so I'll figure out what happened later. So let's go back here. So the benefits of InterSystems Data Fabric Studio. So we can enable several use cases, analytics, reports, but also AI assistance, because we're bringing the data and we're keeping it current. It's updated data. It's very important. I want to repeat that a lot, because if you're making business decisions with stale data, that's not useful. It's not only RAG, right? It's full reasoning, which makes this very, very powerful. Reduces hallucination to a minimum. I want to make sure everybody understands that. That's why we're doing this. And because this is a product, it becomes an implementation project, not a development project. We're not building something with you. We're just deploying it, training you. It's an implementation project. And we are thinking a lot about governance and security all the time here, and that's what we're going to see next. So governance and security. So the assistant. So how does it work, right? Let's go into that IDFS reasoning box for a moment. An assistant rely on agents. So here I have one assistant on the left. It has one agent that can help with SQL queries, but I can have also other agents that can do other things. I can access research papers. I can help you with generating graphs based on numerical data, and so on and so forth. So we build assistants with agents. Okay. And we can have multiple assistants. That is part of also of personalization, right? I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but basically, if I am a doctor, I want to talk to a clinical assistant that has access to clinical data. But if I am an administrative person, a clerk, I want to talk to an assistant that only has access to, administrative data, no clinical data, and so on and so forth. So that is a way of segregating access to the data, a very simple way. But also assistants can have different personalities, different names, different behaviors, can be more assertive, can be more friendly. So it depending on the public, you want to have different types of personalities and style. And if I bring it all together, you can see here assistants that are sharing agents, right? And the agents, they have access to the knowledge stores. right? That is, the agents are the gatekeepers of the knowledge store. So that is the data that is vectorized in the vector database that I was talking about. Okay, so I think it's clear to understand what's going on here, right? So knowledge stores at the very bottom of that picture, right? We can index schemas of tables, as you saw in my previous demo. We can index relational data and transform your data that are in your tables into narratives that can be used by the assistant. So I'll say that again. If your data is on tables, SQL tables, that's not text. And large language models, guess what? They deal with language, text. So you have to turn that into text so that it can be more helpful. So we have the ability to do that and help you do that. We transform relational data in narratives that the large language model can understand. It goes a little bit beyond this demo, but I am happy to show it to you after this presentation if you want to see it. We can also index PDF documents and HTML documents and many types of documents. And we put this all in knowledge stores. And an agent is the thing that searches it. Okay? And finally, it can be protected by user roles. So if you are putting all that content in a knowledge store, you want to say only these people can see it. So that is there. Okay? So the assistant now, it can have a name, it can have long-term memory. We're working on this right now, long-term memory about itself. It can have long-term memory about each user that talks to it. As I said, it defines the knowledge store that it uses, right? And it can also be protected by user roles. So who can talk to this assistant, right? Only clinicians can talk to the clinical assistant, for instance. And so you can segregate access to these assistants. And here I have just a picture to show that. So I have this user here that is an account manager and is asking about what is the product line that sold the most last month? And the assistant, the first question the assistant asks itself is like, who are you? Should you be talking to me, right? I can talk to people that are account managers and sales directors. And there you go, you can talk to me, all right. So what agents do I have? Oh, I have these 2 agents. I could have 50, but I have 2 on this picture. The regional sales agent allows account managers and sales director to use it. And the other agent here, the payroll agent, is only for users that are sales directors. So yeah, I can't use that payroll agent to answer any questions about this user, right? So that one is out. So I'm sending the question to the agent that I have. It could be many. Again, I'm trying to make this picture small, right? And then the agent does his work, searches its knowledge store, finds the information that he needs, and then talks to the large language model, composes an answer for you, and sends it to the assistant to forward it back to the user. Okay? And I want to just give a quick demo about that. Let's go back to IDFS. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to show here is in the management section of IDFS, I can go to assistants and I can see the assistants that I have. I have 1. I can create a new one. I can call it Iris. And I can pick the vendor, OpenAI. I can say, no, only analysts should be talking to this assistant. I can pick the agents. This assistant is about, I don't know, it can search the data catalog, it can have access to news like New York Times, The Guardian, Security Exchange Commission documents, filings, right? It can graph stuff. So you pick the agents that will make up the brain of this assistant. So this is so easy, you see. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you the tools for you to create any assistants, the number of assistants that you need, and select the data sets that you will have access to and give you all the governance and security to do it. So I can save that there, right? But I will use my current assistant here to ask a simple question. I was showing you previously the SQL assistant. We also have the research assistant that is more like a generic assistant. It's not only focused on SQL. And I do have a question here that I could ask it. Let me see, change. Sorry, you're seeing my notes here. So what I'm asking here is, what are the risks associated with NVIDIA accordingly to SEC filings, like formal documents from the Security Exchange Commission that these companies that are on the stock exchange, they have to publish every year and be honest about their risks and stuff like that. They usually have like hundreds of pages. And you don't need to read all of this here, but basically it's saying, look, I know what you're talking about, but unfortunately I cannot provide direct access to these filings. They are on this system called EDGAR, which is all true, and I can't help you. That's because my assistant does not currently have access to the SEC agent, the Security Exchange Commission agent. And I just wanted you to see that it's not trying to make up an answer and hallucinate. It's being honest. Look, I don't know. I can even try to help you by pointing you to to EDGAR, which is the name of that system. But I will change that. I will give this assistant the Security Exchange Commission agent. And now my assistant has something new in its brain. And I can go to the research assistant, I will start over, and I will ask that question again. So here it goes. So here you can already see the reasoning is saying, okay, you're talking about SEC filings. I do have an SEC agent, and I will delegate this question to it. And now the SEC agent is working, and it may output more reasoning paragraphs here because we need to manage the user anxiety. Like, this really takes time because it's thinking, right? And there it goes. Now it's talking about investment risk and give me the links to the 10K filings in the Security Exchange Commission, cybersecurity risks. It gave me a summary of all the risks and with links to everything to prove that it's not hallucinating, right? So what else do I have here for you? Yeah, I just did everything. The only thing that I wanted to show next is this trace here. I'll briefly go there. It's a very powerful tool, especially when something goes wrong, right? Because you can see what happened in the brain of the assistant as it was answering that question. So this is persisted for as long as you need it. It also fulfills many different requirements in terms of governance, right? But it helps us to fix problems as well. So it's a very useful tool. It also keeps track of the cost of talking to the large language models, and it tells you where you spent your time. Like here, 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there, right? 15 seconds on this step, and then you can try to work to make it better if that makes sense, right? So it's a very powerful tool. I'm not keeping track of my time. Oh, there it is. I have a clock there. All right. So, bless you. So, again, we can allow you to create different assistants for different audiences. Users can only talk to an assistant if they are authorized. Remember, if the assistant knows everything, you don't want people that should not be seeing everything to talk to those assistants. So all these aspects of security and government, they are built in. We can also further filter access based on user roles, as you've seen. So these two levels of access management. And when using the data catalog agent, like when you're asking help with a SQL statement, asking to see some data, that agent will run those queries using your security SQL, your user SQL security context, right? So that if you don't have access to the table, it will just say, no, you can't see that, right? So it's all protected. And all conversations, they can be recorded and traced for either fixing a problem or looking into an issue. So that was security and governance aspects of InterSystems Data Fabric Studios. And personalization is a quick one. So basically, again, we can curate data from all your systems, right? We can add external data as well, like you just saw me using public data coming from the Security Exchange Commission. So I can fetch data from my internal systems, I can fetch data from external systems, right? And you haven't seen that on the demo, but assistants and agents, they can have their prompts customized. So I can customize the behavior, be more assertive, be more friendly. I can customize its personality, its style, and also prompts that help that to be more precise sometimes, depending on what you're doing. So, implementation and support. So again, I want to emphasize that we are aiming at working with you on an implementation project, not a development project. This is a product that is aimed at non-developers. Developers can use it, absolutely. We allow you to do many things here, like exposing REST endpoints to your data, etc. But we are also trying to protect you and protect your data. So we are being very prescriptive. It's not just a database, right? It's a platform. It's offered as a managed service on AWS and Azure. Happy to talk about alternatives if necessary, but that's what's happening right now. It can be configured with your identity provider for single sign-on, so we can easily plug into your authentication system, know who you are, get your roles, and then use that to define what assistants you can talk to, what data you can see. We have support for multiple LLM vendors. You have seen the demo with OpenAI, but we are working on adding Anthropic, Claude, and we want to, it's our responsibility to make sure that the product continues to work with all these vendors. So that's another thing that it's about another benefit of having a product instead of a toolbox, right? Because it's our job now to make sure that when OpenAI changes something on their model or publishes a new LLM model, to verify if everything continues to work as before, right? And help you fix a prompt here or fix something here, improve an agent to cope with those changes. So it's on us. And complete traceability also helps with support, right? If something is going wrong, we have all the tools to really look into what's happening and quickly figure it out. So we're getting to the conclusion, and so we can meet all these challenges, right? Access to your data, we can access your data, it's easy to implement, has built-in security, personalization for your business, right? It's quick to implement, it's safe, it's a managed service, we take care of backups, monitoring, scalability, everything. So if you think that you could benefit from having an assistant, a large language model assistant to improve your processes, we can help you. We're ready to do it. So long-term memory is coming next. We are working on this right now. It will be available in a few months. It's specific also long-term memory about users. Like if you tell an assistant that, I don't know, someone was giving me a very good example. If I am a supply chain customer and I work on a warehouse and I tell the assistant I want to know about deliveries that are coming in my way or something like that, the assistant could, you know, try to search its memory and say, but what is the warehouse? I don't know, so I'll ask you, but when you answer the question, I can memorize that, and I don't need to ask you again. I have long-term memory about that user. So long-term memory about the assistant is like business rules, some regulations about your company, how your company works, stuff that is proprietary of your company, but you want the assistant to know, to have that in its brain all the time. We are working on allowing people to upload documents during a conversation. Yeah, we all do that with ChatGPT, right? So we want to do that here too. We were focusing on aspects of implementing an assistant that are about putting all this technology together and creating the data workflows, creating the tools to provide you the ability to create these data workflows and run them periodically and keep the data flowing. So we were prioritizing that, which is super powerful. So now we're doing the easy task of allowing some random person to upload a single document during a conversation. So I just want you to understand what were our priorities. More governance. We are always thinking about other ways that things could go wrong and make sure that doesn't happen to you, right? And there is this thing called MCP servers. It stands for Model Context Protocol. It's an open standard for building AI assistants and agents. It's awesome. It's something that allows us to really reuse agents that are out there. And also build new agents in an innovative way that is very flexible. So we are adding this to the product that will allow us to use new agents that already exist so we don't have to reinvent wheels, but also expose our own capabilities as MCP servers to our developers, to our users. So, and finally, here is a quick comparison that I stole from Joe Lichtenberg between IDIS and InterSystems Data Fabric Studio. So on the left you have IDIS, our core data management platform. IDFS has been built on top of IDIS. So we use IDIS in many different ways. IDIS as our metadata store, IDIS as our core platform, IDIS as our vector database. Right, so we are using IDIS in multiple different ways. IDIS is designed for developers to build applications, and again, Data Fabric Studio is designed for a wider range. Wider range of users to configure solutions. We want it to be easy. So IDIS supports a multitude of use cases, right? Operational data, analytical, translytical. We are focusing on bringing your data in, keeping it current to support analytical use cases. And both are applicable to all industries. And again, IDFS is only available right now as a managed service. IDIS can be anywhere. And that concludes my presentation. I have 4 minutes left for questions. So, how did that go? Thank you. Oh, yes, please. Do you?
You talked about the importance of the column descriptions for making the assistants useful. And then you talked about the ability to create narratives out of columnar data. Why not use the data itself to create the descriptions using AI?
What a great question. Thank you. Yeah, when someone creates a table to store some data, a lot is lost, right? Because the person has all that story in their head, like these are patients that are coming in the hospital and they're being seen by a doctor, and when you transform that into a data model, you just have these very dry column names. And the assistant, an LLM model, it looks at that and it can't really it can figure out something, but it can't really totally understand what's going on. So you need to bring that semantic back into the story before you give that information to the LLM. And what do I mean by that? Let's keep going with this example. Like I have this admission table, and I have a pointer to, that's just a number, a pointer to a patient. I have a date. I have a pointer to, I don't know, a location, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, I'm looking at this data, and it's just some numbers. And then it's a normalized data model. And I would have to join all this data to really get to the data. And moreover, I have to put that back into the story, like Philip is a patient, semantic back into the context, that has been admitted in this date to this hospital because he was feeling this and this and that, and he was in this location and was seen by this doctor. So you recreate the text of the narrative by joining all these tables, getting all these columns, and then fitting them into a text. Okay, so when we configure a narrative, we allow you to say, give me the query that joins all your data, give me the text that tells a story, and it will have placeholders for the columns that the query is returning. And then for every row that I find, I produce the text again. So we can bring the semantic back to that story and feed it into the large language model as the data is changing. So here is another thing that is awesome, because we are periodically pulling data from all your sources and updating these data models in IDFS. And as we're doing this, we are reapplying the semantic back to that data and feeding it to the vector database for vectorization. So narratives, I mean, there are some metrics from, I'm not sure, maybe Gartner, that says like 80% of useful data is in relational databases nowadays, right? And so we thought that we have to do this. We have to try to bring back the semantics to the relational data before feeding it to the large language model. Is that clear enough? I mean, I was talking there a lot. Makes sense? Yes, please.
Well, the SQL assistant, where, for example, I'm an end user and I don't know what the data model looks like, and I ask, where can I find my orders for my Salesforce or whatever? Does it only look at the table definition, or does it look at the entries inside the table as well to maybe find more information if tables are similar to each other? You know, to find an ingoing order, the outgoing order, they look the same.
Where is Ming? Where is Emily? There it is. That's an awesome question. Thank you. So if I am asking a question about, like, where are my orders about scalpels or Coca-Cola or whatever, first, it uses the description of the tables in the data catalog. We don't look at the descriptions of the tables in the IRIS database SQL schema catalog. It's in our higher, sorry about that. It's in our higher level data catalog. Because we are cataloging more than tables. We may be cataloging a CSV file. We may be cataloging something from Salesforce, from SAP, right? So that answers part of your question. But then, now that I kind of know what tables are available, I need to figure out what is a scalpel. where is that thing in these columns? And one of the things we're doing right now is to allow you to pick some columns, like this, the descriptions of the order or the product, right? And use that and vectorize that, but associated with that column, so that when you provide me scalpel, I can say, well, scalpels can be found on columns of these tables. And based on the question that you are asking, I can see that these tables together joined by that column that has scalpel on it. And by the way, scalpel is written like this, not like that, because the semantics similar. So we're doing all this. We're doing all this. There are many, many features that we're working right now to keep improving this. And that's exactly the challenges that we're trying to prevent you from, reinventing these wheels. It's complicated and has to be done in real time, right? For instance, this particular example is very, very good because we need to deduplicate all the entries for scalpel on that column and then vectorize that and saying, yeah, these are all things that are in that column, right? So we're doing that. Thank you for the question. And thank you, Ming and Emily, for bringing that use case to us. Any more questions? Oh, that's blinking red. I'm done. Okay, thank you.